Hello everyone, welcome to our webinar on the integration of NetBrain and Paessler PRTG. So my name is Karina Winkelmann and I will guide you through this webinar today, and Dave Spence, Senior Pre-Sales Engineer at NetBrain Technologies, and Vyacheslav Milavanov, Pre-Sales Engineer at Paessler AG, will introduce you to the RESTful API integration, as well as show you live demos on how both solutions work. Before we start, I would like to introduce you a few housekeeping rules. Due to a huge number of participants, you're all muted by default, so we avoid all background noises. So please do not hesitate to ask your questions in our Q&A or chat tabs. We will have time in the end of the session to answer all of them. This webinar is being recorded, and we'll send the link to the webinar recording after the session to all of you. But last but not least, please do not forget to change to full screen mode so you don't miss any details. So what's our agenda today? We know that some of you already work with NetBrain or Paessler PRTG. You have at least an idea what kind of solutions both companies are offering. And our goal today is that in the end of this webinar, every one of you have a better overview about what NetBrain and Paessler PRTG are. And today we will not only show you a short live demo for each solution, but also examples for the integration of both in another short software demo. At the end of this webinar, we will have some extra time to answer all the questions you collected during the webinar. So before we start with the introduction of NetBrain's no-code automation, we would like to better understand if you already know NetBrain. For this, I would like to run a quick survey, and I would like to ask you to take a few seconds to answer this. So please let us know if you already know NetBrain no-code automation. Oh, this is very fast. Thank you. I see a lot of answers already coming in. Okay, I think it's great. Thank you very much. It's indeed almost 80% says no, we don't know about this solution, which is great because Dave can take over and introduce you to NetBrain. Dave?
Thanks. Thanks, Karina. Thanks for that good introduction. So I'm Dave Spence, and I'm going to be taking you through a fairly brief introduction to NetBrain, really, followed by a couple of demos, including how we integrate with PRTG. So let's start. So NetBrain's been around for a while, actually. It was founded in around 2004, so nearly 20 years ago. Yeah, so initially, actually, it's a documentation mapping tool. But as we see, and I'll go through this, it's moved on a long way since then. And now many of the largest companies in the world use NetBrain, and they use it for a whole range of different automation use cases, which I'll take you through. Now, the important thing to remember is that this is all no code. Yeah, so when you think about this, automation has actually been around for a while now, but actually a lot of these approaches rely on a certain degree, at least, on scripting, yeah, and coding. But actually your network engineers are not necessarily your best developers. So NetBrain allows your network team to focus on what they do best, which is looking after the network and what they want to achieve without having to worry about writing and maintaining actually code as well. So here in this slide, these are the 6 key use cases, and we're going to be looking at a number of these during the demo. So let's start. So outage prevention. So companies spend a lot of time and money building redundant networks. But if there's a failover, can we be sure that it will fail over correctly? So NetBrain can verify that the devices are configured correctly, ACLs and redundant links are symmetric, etc. So this can ensure that you have smooth failovers and you keep your network green. Network security. So there are some really good tools out there, firewalls, IPS, IDS, all of those type of things, which protect the network. But how do we ensure that the devices themselves are secure? Are we authenticating our routing protocols? Are we using secure SNMP strings? Do we have BPDU guard, etc. configured? All of these checks can be automated by NetBrain, verifying that your devices are compliant. Diagnosis automation. Now, modern networking solutions, the monitoring solutions, they can very quickly tell you if there's a problem on your network. Unfortunately, after that, it's typically a long and involved process often with lots of different types of tools used to determine the root cause. So typically you're repeating the same troubleshooting steps over and over again. And NetBrain can help automate this whole troubleshooting process, acting, if you like, as a single pane of glass, a bit like an operating system, as that shields you from all the machine code and things like that, to all the different types of devices, your GPUs, your CPUs, all that stuff. Yeah, NetBrain can do the same thing, but for your networking devices. And this really drives down MTTR. So when you do have an outage, the impact on the business is minimized. Protected change. So when you make a change, it's important to know that this is tracked and that very importantly, the consequences of this change are documented. So NetBrain can verify the state of the network both before and after the change. And the key here is it's granting change assurance, whilst at the same time reducing human error, and it's allowing for a quick rollback at a click of a button if needed within the change window. Moving on to application performance. So there are some very good EUE monitoring tools out there, but they cannot verify the multiple network paths the applications use. So how are these paths performing? Do we have queue drops? Is the application taking the optimal path? So NetBrain can verify this and ensure that your critical application paths are working as expected. Hybrid visibility. So having up-to-date and complete network documentation across multiple vendors and multiple different types of networks, SDN, SD-WAN, AWS, Azure, all of those type of networks. It's more important than ever, yet due to the complexity of all of those, it's harder and harder to achieve. And lots of customers I speak to on a fairly daily basis, they talk of the near impossibility of doing this across all of their networking devices. There's some good point tools, but again, the big picture is very difficult. And NetBrain can automate all of that. It can automate the whole process and give you complete visibility across multi-vendor, multi-technology networks. But how do we do it? Well, at the very core of NetBrain lies the digital twin. So this is a mathematical model of the entire network, and it's created at multiple topology layers: layer 2, layer 3, overlay, underlay, VPN, tunnels, etc. So this enables many of the automation capabilities I've just spoken about. Dynamic mapping. This is where NetBrain started, and as we just mentioned, in modern hybrid networks, this is becoming increasingly difficult to achieve, yet NetBrain automatically creates and refreshes those dynamic maps. These can then be exported into multiple formats like Word, Visio, even JPEG. And finally, network intents. So many of the use cases we spoke about in the previous slide are built using network intents. So we're going to talk about them in more depth right now. So what are network intents? So network intents, think of them as no-code units. And these translate a lot of the workflows that humans would use via the CLI or perhaps the API. So what they do is they capture and encode these human tasks and workflows in your organizations, all without code. So for example, have the OSPF neighbor relationships on my core routers change, or my BGP relationships on my core routers change? Do I have BPDU guard enabled on my switches? Anything that can be obtained either via the configuration file or the actual tables on the devices, the state tables via show commands, routing tables, BGP neighbor tables, etc., or even the API, these can be captured by an intent, parsed, and then a diagnosis created, all without coding. So these points here are very important on this slide. This is the last one before I go and take you into the demo. So NetBrain is not just another tool. It's an intent-based, no-code automation platform. It is focused on day 2 operations, so after deployment. Yeah, so troubleshooting, documentation, all of those things we spoke about a couple of slides ago. Now it captures and shares subject matter expertise, very importantly, enabling collaboration, all without coding. And it automates and scales repetitive tasks, increasing efficiency and conserving resources. And it understands and preserves network intent, design, and performance. So now giving you an introduction, let's hop over to my NetBrain environment. Let's do this now and give you a live demo. Let's see NetBrain in action, if you like. Right, so one of the key benefits of NetBrain is the ability to drive down mean time to resolution, MTTR, when troubleshooting hybrid networks. So NetBrain can very easily map a path spanning lots of different types of vendors and networking technology. Yeah, so NetBrain can calculate paths across lots of different technologies using the device's own forwarding tables. This can give you much greater visibility into the devices actually involved in forwarding the traffic, much better than a simple trace route. And then using the application manager module, we can then test these paths on a regular basis to ensure that they're running consistently. So I've got a path here that you can see on the screen. So imagine we've got a client, say 10.8.12.66, trying to talk to this server over here on this different IP address. You can see, let me just show you what I did here. So you can specify the path type, is it unicast, multicast, the protocol, and we actually support quite a range of different protocols here. Yeah, and then actually the data source, is it live? Do we want to take it from the daily benchmark? So I mentioned about this mathematical model. NetBrain will typically do that daily. We call that the daily benchmark. Or you can even take it from a historical point in time. So we've mapped that path, and then what that NetBrain will do is it will actually map that path all the way from the source to the destination, and it's using the device's forwarding table. So if I just peek into the path details here, you can see what's actually going on. So this is far more than a simple trace route. So you can see here, you're using the device forwarding tables themselves. And actually, as I just go down here, you can see there's lots of different types of technologies here. Look, you've got Cisco devices, you've got some Viptela, SD-WAN here. And actually over here, this is quite nice. You've got the checkpoint firewall. And again, you can see this is giving you information you wouldn't get from a trace route. Yeah, you're actually seeing that it's looking into the policy table. So in fact, if there was a firewall rule actually blocking the traffic, you'd actually see this. It would actually stop here and say, look, this traffic isn't allowed because of this particular firewall rule, which is really handy. And actually, we can move on. So there's over here, look, it's going into its ACI environment. So again, it's actually querying ACI. It's looking at things like ACI contracts and things like that. So again, giving you this level of visibility in how that traffic is being routed, which goes way beyond simple stuff using trace route. And in fact, if you go on and click L2, you can actually go and see the L2 hops as well. So again, you wouldn't get that from trace route, which would just show you layer three hops. And I haven't shown this here, but again, it's worth mentioning actually. You can also show the return path as well. So again, one of the key issues I've seen in the past with networking problems is asymmetric routing. So again, NetBrain can detect that. It can actually show you if the return path is different from the path going out. Yeah, so we've gone through the path, and now we've actually done this. Once we've actually isolated the problem to just these devices, and again, I want to highlight, look at all the different types of technologies in this that NetBrain's understood and mapped the path out. And in fact, if you look over here, look, it's popping out into a VMware environment as well. Yeah, now we've isolated it, we can start to do some troubleshooting. So the very simplest, the very easiest troubleshooting we can do is just using an overall health view. So let's do this live. So what NetBrain can actually very quickly do is verify the overall health of the devices on the map. So it can quickly show you, is there anything obvious going wrong with this network? Are the interfaces okay? Is the CPU utilization, memory utilization fine? And you can see as it's running, look, the devices are popping up. Yeah, so they're popping up as green or red if there was a problem. So you can see as it's running along, you can see the map being updated. And we can very quickly here see if there's anything obviously wrong with the network. And it's quite nice, you can click in here and you can look in and you can just see this as a function of time. So I'm looking at the CPU utilization. You can also as well notice here as I actually zoom in, you get more information. Look, so we're getting information here. Let me just zoom in here. This is quite nice. You can see things like if we've got any CRC errors and things like that on the interfaces. So again, that's quite helpful. And for things like, if I move over here, for things like ACI, we've got some specific ACI data views as well. So we can go in here and say, well, actually, what we're curious about is any sort of fabric underlying faults. Yeah, so I can very quickly here, let me do this live. Hang on. So we can very quickly view if there's any problems with our ACI environment. In a way, because here, remember, with the traditional networking equipment, we're using primarily the CLI, but actually for things like ACI, we're not doing that. We're using the API. And again, quickly in here, you can see this is API specific. So you can go in, you can click here, and it's showing me here live. These are some of the issues I have with my ACI environment. So this isn't just checking traditional equipment. We can check our more modern stuff. And again, if you've got AWS or Azure and things like that, there's equivalent views for that as well. And I just want to emphasize here, if you're a network engineer trying to solve this. Imagine doing this without NetBrain. You're doing this manually, the good old-fashioned ways that I was brought up with. Yeah, you're going to get PuTTY or whatever console tool. You're going to be SSHing into devices. Oh, but hang on, that's not going to be any good here. So for things like ACI and other types of devices, I'm going to be using the web consoles and things like that. And then I'll be doing this staring and comparing. I might have to look up credentials and things like that. It's going to take me a lot of time. With NetBrain, I'm saving all of that time. NetBrain is doing all of that heavy lifting for me. And actually, better than that, I've already mentioned data views. Yeah, and data views are a way of overlaying information onto the map. I did a very quick one with the overall health view, but actually this here under data views, this is the fabric health and underlay faults. They're very good. And I've got a range of those actually here, look. So you can, if I wanted to look at things like OSPF, multicast, there's actually a BGP one. It's not showing here because I don't have BGP running on these devices, but if it was running, it would actually give you that as an option as well. What about switching? What if I want to check spanning tree? I can look at that. But better than that, I could use something called a network intent. So network intents are like one step beyond, maybe a couple of steps beyond data views. So with data views, what they're doing is they're taking the data from the digital twin or from the live network and then overlaying it onto the dynamic map. But actually using network intents are much more powerful. So here they not only issue commands, but they then use diagnostic logic based on that. Yeah. So here you can really automate using intents. You can automate your troubleshooting steps, but you can also verify that your devices are compliant. So let's have a look at this. So let's pick one. So there's a few I've actually set up ahead of time. So I can actually, let's create one. So what I've got here is an auto intent, check neighbors and test. So if I just go in, it's just running away here. So let's let that run, brilliant. And I'll just quickly show you, it's created that, what it's actually doing. This is quite nice, just to pop behind, under the bonnet, so to speak. So you can actually see what's going on. So what NetBrain's doing here, let me just click this and I'll show you. Let me retrieve the live data. So what NetBrain's doing on this device is it's issuing this command, show IP OSPF neighbor. That's what I've done. I've created this and said, that's the command I want to run. This is the output. And then what NetBrain's doing is it's parsing this and extracting the variables using something called a parser, and you can create your own. But it's pulling the actual, it's turning the command output into a table and extracting those variables. And then once you've got that, you can do diagnostic logic. So what I'm doing here, look, I'm saying, look, if my current state doesn't equal the baseline state, or I could put static values in here, then I've got a problem. Highlight this as a problem. Yeah. And actually what I can then do is say, well, actually, that's fine. But if there is a state change, ping the neighbor. So now I've got another network intent, which is actually pinging that particular device. So if there is a problem with that device, if there's a state change, then actually do a ping and actually verify that that device is actually up. So that's quite good. So you can do that, and you can actually daisy chain these together to do some quite sophisticated diagnoses. What I'm going to do now, however, is I'm just going to run this on the map. So I've created this network intent, and now I can actually run this on the map and I can verify all of that. To be fair, this is a demo environment, so I'm not actually expecting anything to go wrong here. I'm not expecting any state changes. That's the thing with these demo environments, that they tend to be fairly bad by their very nature. They tend to be quite, the word static environments. But that's running away, so those commands are being issued on those particular devices. And then NetBrain will be extracting those variables, and from that, it will be able to perform those diagnoses. So you can see that's run now. And as we have a look in, you can see everything's green, yeah? So actually, there isn't anything wrong. Everything looks fine. And if I actually click the little, in fact, you click the little I, you can see, and this is only running on devices which qualified devices. So I specify these have to be Cisco devices, and they have to be running OSPF, but you can see everything here is stable. And in fact, if you want to, you can just go in here and you can have a quick look at the results, and so you can see the neighbor's stable. You can see what it's doing. It's saying this is the current state and that's the baseline state. What you can also do quickly, I'll just show you another quite good one as well as doing things from the, if you like, live states. You can actually check the config files as well. Yeah, so if I go in here, let me just recreate one here. So this is actually, this is really nice. So what this is doing, and again, like I said before, there's some good tools which verify the network from a security point of view, but actually trying to verify the devices can be much harder. Yeah, are my devices security hardened? So if I actually just show you this here and just quickly show you what's going on, I'm going to click run. And while that runs, I'm actually going to show you rather than waiting for it to run like I did last time. So this is run before. I'll actually just show you what's going on in the back end. Let me just quickly show you this. So again, this is slightly different. So what this is doing is this is issuing on the device the command show run begin line VTY. So it's looking at this. And then what it's doing is it's extracting these and it's saying, look, what I'm trying to verify here is I don't want telnet to be on my network. Really, really don't want telnet. So I'm checking for that. Yeah. And so look, if the protocol equals telnet or the protocol equals all, then I've probably got telnet, and then I've got telnet configured and I don't want that. So this will issue or go red and say telnet's enabled. Yeah. I can, and then make the device go red. What I can also do here, I've got another one. So what you don't want, and I've seen this time and time again, actually, having insecure SNMP community strings. I don't want public, I don't want private. So again, NetBrain is actually just verifying this command. So it's looking just on the configuration file, show run, include SNMP server community. And then it's going in here and it's verifying, does it contain public or, and again, you can have lots of different conditions and put them together with Boolean logic. Yeah, this device is an insecure SNMP community string. Yeah, and if that's the case, brilliant. If it's secure, make it green. If it's not secure, make it go red. And again, like I said, you can tie these together as well. And actually, very importantly as well, is you can scale these. Yeah, you can go on. Yeah, you can actually scale these to lots of different types of devices. The way I've done it here, look, I created just one and I've scaled that to all of those. Yeah, and I'll just quickly show this before I actually before I pass this back to Slava. You can quickly see the results. So this, look, it's got telnet enabled, but also it's got a secure SNMP community string. So it's verifying multiple different types of conditions here. So that's it, really. That's what I wanted to show you. And they really are powerful network intents, from the ability to scale them out to actually chain them with other network intents. They can even create maps for you. Yeah, and also you can scale them across multiple types of devices and multiple networks. So I'm going to thanks for listening to that. I'm going to pass you back to Slava.
Thank you very much, Dave. Thank you very much. That was brilliant intro and also very brilliant explanation of what NetBrain is doing. Really enjoying that, hearing that time and again. We're doing webinars together. So my name is Slava. I'm a regional manager, also pre-sales systems engineer at Paessler. And today we're going to talk about Uptime Alliance and also what Paessler is doing, what all this PRTG software is all about. And for those just more for us to understand, in order to figure out whether you know about Uptime Alliance, we prepared a short survey, which I would like to start now. Please let us know whether you've heard or already know about Paessler Uptime Alliance. So this is a very simple question there, and I don't see the results yet. Karina, let me know whether we can continue.
Yeah, I think we can continue. So the majority, almost 80% again, don't know about Paessler Uptime Alliance. So
okay, I knew that coming. The majority, as you can see, says no, they don't know about the Paessler Uptime Alliance. Thank you very much for your answers. In order to change this, I will give you a short overview. All right. So, what is Uptime Alliance and why we need it? We have a vision here at Paessler, 100% uptime of the IT infrastructure. And our goal is, of course, better customer experience thanks to complementary solutions and maximum usability. So, who are we? What is it? Who is the Paessler? For our guests today who might not be familiar with the Paessler AG company, I would like to spend a couple of words on who we are. Okay, so we are not just one of many. We are monitoring experts. We are a market leader in monitoring software. Counting over 350, meanwhile, more than 400 employees from over 26 countries. Our largest market is US, followed by Germany, Austria, Switzerland, UK, and Benelux. And we serve companies of all sizes in industries, beginning from individual entrepreneurs and up to multinational heavy industrial giants. And that gives us very comfortable position that 70% of Fortune 100 companies worldwide are using PRTG, and the sign for it is over 500,000 users of PRTG Network Monitor, hosted monitoring solution, and the enterprise version of monitoring. So the company has been founded a little bit earlier than NetBrain in 1997 by Dick Paessler, and that gives you the idea where our name is coming from. Thank you. So, and it's also very important for us to deliver the world-class software. Next slide, please, Karina. Best technical support, training and consulting services. And that is why we have everything under the same roof. As you see here, the sketch of our headquarters in Nuremberg, where I'm broadcasting this today. So development, pre-sales, accounting, and many other teams are working closely together to ensure that you have best experience with our products and services. So the Uptime Alliance itself, Paessler is well connected to the industry to increase the benefits and fulfill your specific needs. More about products a little bit later. So the benefits to the customer wants to bring is configuration manager, DDI management, DDI, network assurance, industry specific, and more. A complete IT ecosystem integrated into PRTG. And we deliver the best monitoring experience for you, for your use case, network infrastructure, IoT, OT, data center, security, service management, and more. And we have more than 40 alliance partners and growing. The story is the PRTG is one of the broadest and completest IT monitoring solutions. Gartner calls us generalists, with all features and sensors included in every license. There are no add-ons and plugins, but sometimes you need to look deeper into your IT environment, or you need additional functionality for advanced services, or you want to include things beyond IT into your central monitoring. And this is where our alliance ecosystem gains value, because our partners deliver specialist solutions created by experts in their domain and all integrated with PRTG. So we have joined forces to ensure the best monitoring experience. Some solutions add complementary features to PRTG, others allow you to gain deep insights into your network and PRTG. PRTG simplifies your life, giving you the central dashboard showing you all that matters at a glance. So PRTG is well positioned and connected to the market. We offer a solid and broad ecosystem of technology licenses in all industry sectors. And we have our partners who deliver several specialized solutions which are compatible and easy to integrate with PRTG. So a little bit more about the product itself, PRTG Network Monitor. For those who are not familiar with PRTG, please answer to short survey whether you've heard, know about this solution, or maybe already using this. That will help me a lot to specialize my live demo. So Karina, you let me know whether we can continue and which are the results.
So I will wait a few seconds.
Okay.
Answers are still coming in. But I think we have a good mix of PRTG customers as well as newcomers and some people who already know about solutions. So I would say it's
okay. So wonderful, thank you. So I will not be too specific, but also not too general for those who are already customers, so they will not get boring. So why do we need monitoring? So the customers, please close your ears. This is a rhetorical question. So we measure, we inform and learn and analyze and optimize. So because you want to master your network, you want to prevent outages, you want to be alerted to failures to the right time in the real time, and you of course optimize networks and improve your services and reduce the MTBA. So monitoring used to be brickwork in the past, and in many cases even in modern times. The IT infrastructure is being monitored with different tools for each aspect. You may have heard about this. So Cisco delivers its own tools. Whoever network devices provider or server provider, application provider delivers its own different tools to monitor each aspect. And this is uncountable, time-consuming, and expensive. There is a high probability to overlook critical events and miss the corrective action because you get too many alerts. And with PRTG, you monitor every aspect of your IT, OT, IoT infrastructure and also healthcare, by the way, from one single pane of glass, maintaining the visibility, alerts, notification reports in one easy-to-use tool. Okay, so you don't need to have a master's degree to use our comprehensive unified monitoring solution for your entire IT infrastructure, because PRTG is using agentless technology to monitor hardware and applications with standard protocols, API and scripts. It is enrolled within 10 minutes. You can download the trial from our website anytime and try it yourself. Literally, if you can read your device, database, application, website, etc., with protocol, API, script, or any executable, then you can monitor it with PRTG. So, a little explanation, how does PRTG work? A typical use case, a monitoring of a distributed network. So, PRTG consists of two main components. You can see them in the left upper corner. This is the core server and the probe. All right. So like the name core server suggests, the core server component is the real brains behind PRTG. The core server does all data analysis, maintains the database, sends notifications, generates reports, and of course provides the user interface. You will see it right now in the live demo. The local probe resides on the same system. And when I say system, I mean whatever you want to use for installation, bare metal, cloud instance, or your own virtual machine, whatever. So the local probe is a smaller component, sits on the same system and sends out the monitoring queries, collects the responses, and sends the responses to the core server for analysis. So the local probe is a part that is actually sending the pings, NSNMP and WMI requests, and et cetera, and receiving the responses and sending the results to the core server. An installation with one core server and one local probe is a complete PRTG installation. And for a small company, that's all you would need. Just imagine. If you have if you have more than one location, or if you have firewalls between departments within your organization, or maybe you want to separate different departments of customers if you're providing monitoring solutions, then you might not be happy with only the simple installation of one core server and one local probe, as you would need to open up the firewall ports for the monitoring traffic, and this is unhealthy. So to get around this, PRTG includes a so-called remote probes. So you see a typical example in the right bottom corner, and the remote probe is the same software as a local probe, but you can install a remote probe at each of your remote location. The number of remote probes is limited with any license. So the remote probe performs the same tasks as a local probe, namely sending out the monitoring queries, collecting the responses, and sending the results to the core server for analysis. And the traffic between the remote probes and the core server is secured via TLS encryption. So you're not sending any monitoring data or metrics via internet unencrypted. So you only need to open up one port on the core server side. This is the port 23560. In case the connection between core server and the remote probe is interrupted, or the core server is not available to some reason, the remote probe will buffer for you up to 500,000 entries. Once the connection is reestablished, the monitoring data is sent over to the core server. Remote probes are not agents. Remote probe can, of course, also monitor the system is installed on. However, the remote probe also monitors devices without agents, like the digital infrared thermometer measuring the fever of the patient without touching it, So there is no restriction, as I said, on the number of remote probes which can connect to the core server. But we will see later that there are best practices for remote probe setups. So, and then the little bit explanation of 3 different products I've showed you on the very first slide. So we have 3 different flavors of our network monitor solution: DPP-NM, PRTG, Paessler PRTG Paessler network monitoring, which is the on-premises solution, but we also have a hosted solution, so which utilize the same technology as PRTG network monitor, with only difference that Paessler is taking care of your PRTG core server. located in AWS Cloud, the location can be chosen on our admin interface. That means no update, maintenance, or backup efforts for you. PPHM, PRTG hosted monitor is a flexible subscription-based licensing model with monthly or annual payments. The next flavor, PPM or PRTG Enterprise Monitoring, is a subscription licensing model based on sensor count used. Can be installed on-prem or in a cloud, in your private cloud, in your private on-premises, in addition to unlimited number of PRTG core server, attention, PRTG core server, not only probes. Enterprise Monitor package contains third-party software IT hotspot for management of high loads of alerting information coming from multiple PRTG core servers and SLA monitoring of business processes. It is recommended for large infrastructures from 2,000 devices or apps and higher. Now I'd like to switch to the actual demo environment and to show you a very quick overview of PRTG Network Monitor. So I hope you see my screen. Please put your questions into Q&A window, so we'll be able to reply them later on. So you see here the welcome script of PRTG Network Monitor. Very easy and very comprehensive. You see the actual status of the system on the first glance, how many sensors are used, how many sensors are in which state. You see the license status, how many maintenance days left, and so on. And as you see, we're using the browser to access the PRTG admin interface. This is not the only possibility to access PRTG interface. We also have a PRTG desktop solution, which is installable on any operational system like Windows, Linux, or Mac OS. It also utilizes, there is also the multi-server version of this, suitable for enterprise customers, where you can see many servers in one window and also transfer some items within PRTG infrastructure between servers. And of course, we deliver the mobile applications for iOS and for Android, and you have a full access to your PRTG admin interface and also able to receive the push messages. Once we switch to device mode, we see here the typical hierarchy, and at the top you see this very minimal installation, the root, which is the core server, and residing on the same system, the local probe. That means this couple is already able to monitor whatever it can reach within the network segment or namespace and so on. And we also added here in our demo environment some remote probes, which can also reflect your organizational structure, saying this one is sitting in US and this is department A, this one is sitting in Australia and this is department B, or customer A or customer B, and so on and so on and so on, because we maintain the hierarchy. That means you can set up you can put up all your settings on a core server level and inherit them down to the very last item in PRTG. But you can break this inheritance at every single level, and that could be the probe level, that could be the group level, that could be device level, and that also could be a sensor level, and enter your own credentials, enter your polling interval, enter the notifications settings, and so on. So that means we are a multi-tenant system, and you can very, very carefully, very detailed set up the rights and permissions, notification settings, and so on at every level. But still maintaining waterproof, bulletproof, and safe settings made on the top level, and then inherited down to the last item. We maintain the geographic map, which is included, and as we said, we have here cursor, we have here probes, we have here groups, we have here devices, and devices are bearing these sensors. There is a question, very, very common question. What is a sensor? Sensor is a one aspect of IT infrastructure or IoT infrastructure or healthcare infrastructure, covering something which is monitorable via any standard protocol like SNMP, WMI, and so on. Means could be CPU temperature, the space on a hard disk, ping time, test query on your Oracle or SQL database, traffic, the bottlenecks, and many others. Typical example, the most popular sensor, the sensor based on ping technology. So the sensor is also the main item for license calculation. Every sensor can also have channels, up to 50 channels, which are absolutely different metrics, but we don't count them. So that means this license counting stops at the sensor level. What are the channels? For example, the ping, when you execute the ping command, you get a ping time, you get a packet loss on the way back and forth. And also after several executions of ping, you get some statistic, maximum and minimum ping time. All of this are actually the channel. So some SNMP-based sensors can carry up to 50 channels and so on. And as you see, you can get here live data. You can get here some historical information for past 2 days, 30 days, 365 days, and that could be extended up to 5 years. That means PRTG stores information in its very own database, designed for monitoring up to 5 years without any modifying. That means you are audit safe for up to 5 years in the past. And you can create a very quick historic data report just on the run, on the fly, setting the start net date or choosing some of the quick ranges, predefine quick ranges, decide which channels should be included or excluded into the report, then start and get a report. Back to overview, you see the 3 of 4 channels are evergreen and only one has 3 different ranges. That means for those, they are being monitored, but there is no alert setting here. So for this one, clicking on the gear wheel, we set the 2 limits. A warning limit means by reaching this ping time, the sensor will switch into the warning mode, which is yellow. By reaching the 100 milliseconds of ping time, the sensor will switch in the arrow mode, will get red. And if you're not sitting in front of the screen and want to follow the sensors changing the colors, you can set up the notification trigger, which is very easily set up. There are some of them coming from the top, like inherited ones. You can also switch off the inheritance and add your own trigger, which could be state, threshold, and so on. And for the state trigger, it is very easy to reflect the escalation path, saying when the sensor state is certain, like down for at least so many seconds, then please do perform email to admin. If nothing happens, nobody's coming here and declaring this error as acknowledged, then that means something happens to admin. Oh, no. Maybe something happens to your network, to Exchange server. That means please get a second resort and go for example, push message or maybe SMS, and repeat it as often as you want to until somebody will acknowledge the error. So if the sensor changes it back to a previous state, you can get notified or not. That means you have a setup of triggers which are using the which are using different notification templates. You can reflect very nicely your escalation path within your organization. Say in first line, inform the admin on duty. Second line, call somebody, send SMS. And maybe get to the last resort, send a hardcore SMS based on your GSM modem. And you can create as many notification templates as you want to. You can set up some tags to make it easy filterable later on. You can run it on schedule. So to say, this is relevant for team A, another one is relevant for team B, and so on. You can summarize the notifications. You can set up the access right as for any of the PRTG component. And here's the lineup of the possible transports, how to deliver the email. So you can see, you can execute HTTP action to send over to create automatic ticket with ServiceNow or something like this. Send email, event log, assign ticket, SMB trap, execute program, SMS, Slack, MQTT, Amazon SNS, send Telegram or WhatsApp message. Everything is possible. A very flexible, very comprehensible, a very quickly configurable notification setup. For those who rely on reports, who doesn't want to see the immediate information, but like to see the statistics, we have very flexible report system. So you can generate the report based on any of the predefined templates, which are by the way editable, and then you can decide how often, which sensors to be included by tag, by sensors manually, schedule, period, and many others, uploaded by FTP, send it by email, and also create the comprehensive reports suitable for C-level, suitable for system administrators, and so on, so on, so on. Very flexible. And last but not least, before I got back to Dave, because PRTG is by far more powerful than we can explain you within 10 minutes. The visualizing engine is also on board because we have in the web server included into installation. We have Ajax, and that means you can generate with the built-in map designer with very visual principles. You can create a map. So you have here on the left pane the device tree, whatever you have in your PRTG. Then you can simply move it over, drag and drop, make it a bit nicer, add your own pictures, your icons, your backgrounds, and so on. Then create this this map, and then you can also share it. So with login, without login, or make it public via iframe. So, and the only limitation for maps is your own fantasy. So you can create the maps which are suitable for C-level. So just in bypassing the welcome script downstairs, you can see how your single components of your complicated, sophisticated structure are operating. But for you as a system administrator, so you can get a little bit deeper and see what's behind it. Of course, you can also include the backgrounds of your CLD drawings. This is our headquarters, by the way. So the colleague, somebody responsible for access points, will get this as a homepage once log in, and we'll see if something happens. Not only what is happening, but also where it is happening. All right. So, and the sensors and the devices are getting into PRTG by a very simple procedure called auto discovery. That means you don't even have to create the devices and sensors manually. You can get them by automatic discovery. So for those who want to hear or see more of PRTG, please, you're welcome to visit our website. Get in touch with us on the pre-sales at paessler.com or sales at paessler.com, and get here some self-reading, visit our popular webinars and so on. And I will be also happy to reply to your questions right after Dave will show the integration between PRTG and NetBrain. And back to you, Dave. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Slava. That was really good. Brilliant. So let me quickly sort of wrap up really by showing you how NetBrain integrates. So actually, NetBrain works pretty seamlessly really with 5 types of external systems, and it enhances their value with triggered, event-driven, no-code automation. So we've got these pre-built API connectors which provide a single source of truth, integrating data and events from your existing IT monitoring systems, such as your ITSM systems, SIEM solutions, telemetry systems, application performance monitoring solutions, orchestration solutions, and finally, AIOps. And here in this slide, we can use the API to transfer the relevant performance data from PRTG to the NetBrain map in the context of the current situation. So CPU, RAM, top talkers, interface statistics, and more can be displayed. So for example, for your help desk employee, a level 1 supporter, information from PRTG can be accessed and displayed in the dynamic map without having to change the interface. And so for first-line engineers or for other employees who don't have access to the PRTG interface, they can now easily access the information they need when they want it. And we'd call that single pane of glass. Now, this second use case goes more into automation. So we've already mentioned that we can start a diagnosis triggered by PRTG. Now, such a trigger can be, for example, a network failure, a CPU that is too high or something similar. So what happens is then a map with the relevant devices and the neighbors are automatically created by NetBrain. An incident with various maps then gets created, and network intents for troubleshooting are executed, saved, and then made available for the team. This gives you less waiting time, fewer escalations, happier users, and more time for new topics that bring the company forward. So I think I've done enough PowerPoints now. Let's move on to the demos. Let me just show you this live. Let me share my screen. Okay, so let's have a look. So what I've got here is, again, I've got our familiar friend. We've got the we've got an A to B path. Now, I was mentioning about data views earlier. So if you remember, we looked at a couple. We looked at an overall health view, but we also looked at a particular data view for Cisco ACI. And actually, you can see here, I've got a few others which are pre-created, things like this, which can just show you the state. For example, for things like HSRP, I've got another one here, which is showing OSPF. But actually, what we really want to show you here in this context, although this is very good, by the way, look, you can see things like OSPF, neighbor relationships, and what the state is, similar to the intent I showed you earlier. But for this particular context, what I really want to show you is PRTG data views. So unlike the others, which are actually taking data directly from the networking devices, what this is doing is this is actually taking the data from PRTG. So it's pulling the data from PRTG. And we can see here we've got a certain number of sensors. And actually, if we look down here, we can see we've got a table which is showing us more details. Yeah. And what we can also do here is we can click the sensor ID, and this will now take us straight into PRTG. Yeah. So we've also got a second data view here. So this is actually quite nice. This is a bit more colorful. So we get a little bit more information here. And actually, we can see more information directly on the map. So remember, what this is doing is this is giving us the best of both worlds. So if you think PRTG looks at certain types of information, NetBrain looks at other information, but here you can bring the two together on your dynamic map. And that's the real strength. Yeah, we can see information gathered directly by NetBrain and also information gathered from any other system, in this particular case, PRTG, which is completing the picture. It's giving us a much greater and more in-depth view of the state of our network. Now, the second use case, and this is the final one I really want to talk about now, is triggered automation. So this really is taking integration to the next level. So what we can see here is a ServiceNow ticket, which has been automatically created by PRTG. So normally the usual workflow would be PRTG detects an issue on the network and it automatically raises a ticket in ServiceNow. So normally the first engineer would then come in here and they'd pick the ticket up and they'd start troubleshooting. They'd probably have to search for documentation, open up some networking tools to help him troubleshoot. But using triggered automation, ServiceNow has already connected NetBrain and asked it to start collecting key information based on this information here and keywords from within the ticket. And we can see here that NetBrain has already done some work and it's actually run some intents for us and gathered some relevant maps as well. So if I go in here, look, and just open this in the NetBrain portal, we can see some of this. So actually what we can do, and it'll pop up in a second, is we can see the results in the portal without having to go into NetBrain itself. So we can see the path, the results of some network intents. And it's immediately here, if you look, this is actually showing us here, there's a route change. Yeah, so this is brilliant because all of this data was gathered when the issue was raised. So the engineer doesn't need to go away and find documentation tools. So this is saving time. So it's making the whole troubleshooting process more efficient. So again, this is giving us quite a good hint about where the problem might be. So you might be able to update the ticket. If he's a level 1 engineer, and this is as far as he can go, he can update the ticket and he can pass this on to a next level engineer who can come into the ticket and then he can carry on troubleshooting directly within NetBrain. Yeah, so actually, we saw here that the networking, we'll see again, here we go. The network intents have already given us some information. And in fact, if I click in here, look, what we can see, yeah, is this has been retrieving some live data. Yeah, right at the time that the ticket was created. And actually showing default route has changed. If I click in here, it's just showing us, look, the default route, yeah, the next hop right now is 10.99.11, but what it should be is 105.111. So we can immediately see there's been a problem here. Yeah. So it's already pointing to where the problem is. And we could also do, if we're live on the map, and this is the real power of actually troubleshooting from within NetBrain. You can say, well, actually, for these devices, what I want to do is I want to retrieve some live data. So I want to retrieve my config file, say, and my routing tables for all of these devices. So what NetBrain is now doing, rather than the engineers having to go in, get different tools, issue CLI commands, they're already, for a start, a lot of that's already been done for them via the network intents. They can go in here, for example, and they can retrieve live data. They can see what's going on in the network. And they can say, well, actually, what I really want to do here is I want to do a comparison. How have things changed from the baseline, which was last night's digital twin mathematical model, and this retrieve live data result? Let's just go in, have a quick look. So we can go in here, and we can quickly see those results, and we can see, importantly, what's changed. So if I go in here, look, US Boss R2, look, we can see 2 changes. So if I go in here, I could view the configuration file. So if I click that, I can say, I don't want to know what's unchanged. Or maybe I do, but actually I can see something's been added. Oh, look at this. An interface has been shut down. Actually, that was me prepping for the demo just to show you something broken. But actually what we can also see, again, if this is a real problem, you can go in here, view the routing table, and you can view what's changed. So we can see here, look, some routes have been removed and some other routes here, which are still there, they're now being learned through OSPF rather than BGP. So again, I'm pretty much clued up. I can see here what the problem is. One of the interfaces has been shut down. Look, I can see that. In actual fact, if I didn't know that, if I wanted some more detail, I can say, well, actually, what I'd like you to do, NetBrain, is actually, this is the path. This is the path as it should be. What I'd like you to do is actually show me that path as it is right now. So NetBrain, again, has this ability to interrogate the network directly and actually show you how are those devices right now, at this moment in time, forwarding that traffic. How is that traffic going from a particular source to a particular destination? And we can see that's all going on. Now, it doesn't take very long, but it's live from the network. Let me give myself a bit more space. We can see here there's been a that actual interface shutdown has caused the path to change from going over from the MPLS network through to the DMVPN network. And it's visual. You can see this live without using all of these multiple tools. It can much more quickly help you determine what the root cause is. Yeah, so the key point I want to get at here really is that we've solved this problem very quickly using information that was gathered right at that time the problem was reported. Yeah, and it's the real power of automation, and it really drives down the key thing here. That's really driving down mean time to resolution. So thanks for listening. I'm going to hand you back to Karina.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Thank you, Slava, for the presentation. I hope the live demo of the integration of NetBrain and PRTG has shown you once again what is possible when both software work together. And now I would like to know from you if you could imagine such integration in your company in the future. I would like to start the last survey, and please take a few seconds to answer this. And then we will go to the Q&A. So I see some answers coming in, just a few more seconds, promise, and then we are open to your questions. Okay, thank you very much for sharing this information with us. And as promised, let's go to the Q&A. So Dave and Slava are now ready to answer anything you ask. I hope anything.
Oh, please don't ask us anything.
Okay. Related to the product, yes.
So I cannot come any further than weather forecast for tomorrow, because I can look for it at Google. Dave, do you have any questions related to? Did you have any? Because I've had some in Q&As.
So I see one question, can we get this recording? Yes, I will send the recording after this session by the end of the day, so you will be receiving it via email.
I've got a question which has popped up that I can answer. Is NetBrain cloud or on-prem solution? That's a really good question, actually. Primarily, it's conceptually, it's on-premise. Yeah, so the smaller deployments are 2 servers. So you'd have a Windows application server, and a Linux backend server. For the smaller ones, that's up to about 2,000 networking devices, but it can scale up. You can have distributed environments and high availability environments, but it's conceptually on-premise. Some of our customers actually just have AWS, have their application server and their database server running in AWS or Azure, because that's where they'd rather have that. And you can actually, the actual part of NetBrain which connects to the devices is called the front server, and that can be wherever you want the front server to be. So yes, conceptually on premise, but it actually, if you're using AWS, it can be within in AWS or Azure or whatever you want it to be. My pleasure.
Okay, we have one more question. Which hardware is required for NetBrain, and how big is the final initial effort?
Oh, how long is a piece of string in terms of initial effort? But what I do have, I'll post a link actually. It's a good question. Again, good question. So let me just show you. If I post you, I'll just post this on. I will post this here on the within the chat, because all of the information you need is on here. So where do I do this? Can I just post this on the chat, and can everybody see this?
You can post it in the chat, yeah.
To everyone. So if I post this here, there we go. So this is actually, I've just posted on the webinar chat, the link, and this shows you all the system requirements. So generally, in terms of the initial effort for setting NetBrain up, you'd usually actually engage with NetBrain, and NetBrain would give you something called the jump start. I say give, part of the professional services for when you buy NetBrain, you'd get the jump start. And so the jump start is an offering where NetBrain will actually install all of this for you. And it's all properly configured for your network.
Okay, thank you, Dave. I think we have one more question. Can you also integrate a map from NetBrain into PRTG and visualize it in PRTG? And if those maps are staying dynamic?
Okay. So you can incorporate any HTML code into PRTG as a map, and if the NetBrain will make it dynamic, and I think it is dynamic, then the PRTG, of course, will take it over one to one. So it's just a piece of code you incorporate into a map, and PRTG will also refresh it every 30 seconds. That means if it's been refreshed from the on the NetBrain side, then of course it will be also updated in the PRTG dashboard. Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you, Slava.
So there is one question from Sebastian. Is it related to NetBrain, or is it related to PRTG?
Thank you. This would be my question as well.
And mine.
I think it might be related to NetBrain. Yeah, okay. So Dave.
Cool. PRTG is top.
It's a good question, actually. So the question is, this solution seems overdue for small companies. Yeah, well, it depends, really. I suppose the easy answer is the larger your network, the more you need NetBrain, because NetBrain enables your engineers to do a lot more, much more quickly. So whether they're troubleshooting, whether they're verifying devices, whether they're just doing compliance stuff, they can do it much more quickly with NetBrain and much more efficiently. But the benefits there are very much, the bigger the network, the greater the benefit then, the more savings you'll see. Yeah. So for example, if you've only got 20 or 30 networking devices, well, actually, you could argue it's probably better to do it yourself. But actually, once you start to get hundreds or thousands of devices, especially tens, or some of our biggest networks, I think, are over 100,000 devices, then it really does. It makes so much more sense, and it really, really helps. 100, oof, that's a good question, actually. That's probably around the, that's probably where you'd start to think about NetBrain, around 100 devices, actually. So yes, I hope that helped.
Thank you, Dave. So are there any questions you would like to write us in the Q&A chat? So if there are no questions left, we would like to say thank you for joining us today. And of course, if you have any questions later the day or the week, you can always write us an email to NetBrain or to Paessler, and we will answer those immediately. And yes, we would like to say thank you for joining us and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.